Hey, so I'm back. I didn't make a video for the fourth treatment, so this video today is going to be about the fourth and fifth sessions and what's been going on with me over about the past, I guess, 5, 6 weeks or whatever since I did the last video. Um, so let's see. The fourth session was pretty uneventful. So I went in and because I have a allergic reaction to the rituximab treatment, they always have to take me into the hospital. And normally you do the treatment over the course of the day, and you would just go in, get the treatment, and you could go home same day. Uh, but because of my allergic reaction, I have to go to the hospital, spend a couple days where they give me rituximab over a prolonged basis. They did that again this time. So I was 2 days in the hospital. It wasn't really that eventful. And then I was led home. And a lot of this was for the fourth treatment. And, it was a lot of the same as before. One thing I did notice is, and I kind of want to talk about this time. So with the fourth treatment and the fifth treatment was very similar. It was also not really eventful. Again, a couple days in the hospital, same thing. Is that there is sort of a cumulative effect, I think, with getting the treatments over time. It just starts wearing on you a little bit. Like after the fourth treatment, I noticed that it was a little bit more just sickness in the stomach, a little bit more tiredness, weakness, everything. And it's one of those things that definitely, obviously for the first time you're not going to enjoy it, but it gets old, and you're kind of ready to get done with it. So it's good that there's 6 sessions. I have 5 behind me now, and I've got one more coming up. And then, so this is what I'll talk about in a minute, but then they look at like, okay, well, how are we going to monitor this going forward? But, there's the planned 6 treatment sessions, and then they look at kind of what the results are after that, and that's what they've told me they're going to do. There were some interesting things that did happen, though, after I would say between the fourth and fifth treatments. So I had, after about 2 weeks, and I didn't know this, so this is something I learned over the last treatments, is that, I would go in, get the chemo, then they would give you sort of a cortisone type pill. And then about the next week sometime, you would have to go back and you get a blood test, and they look at your parameters and tell you, your bloods. What they told me every time was your blood levels are really low. It's very highly likely that you can get an infection and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I guess, whatever. I'll try to, stay clean and try to avoid people and all that kind of stuff. And the first 3 sessions, I basically got infected every time and had to go to the hospital in like emergency states, had sepsis at one point. But anyway, the reason they do that, and this is what they told me this time, is because once your blood levels, the values they're looking at get so low that your organs won't get enough oxygen, your blood won't be able to support your body, and so then you have to get a blood transfusion. And so what had happened this time between my fourth and fifth treatments is that I had like 2 days where I didn't have a fever and I didn't feel like I was sick, but I was just so weak and just like so completely weak that I literally slept all day, every day, and couldn't get out of bed for about 2 days. And so I told them that, and they were looking at my blood values. And so this time, after my fifth treatment, they decided to give me a blood transfusion. And they said, look, your blood values are so low, below this certain level, where 7.5 is the number they told me. I don't know what that means. Could be any number, some arbitrary number. And they said below this number, we just give blood transfusions. And so I got a blood transfusion this past time, and hopefully that'll let me feel better this time, and I won't get infected, and I'll have better blood values and that kind of thing. And I would say, subjectively speaking, I probably did. I feel pretty good. I don't know how much of that depends on the blood transfusion and how much of that is related to cortisone, because most of the time, like when this is my last day of taking the cortisone tablets that they give you for a couple days after you get the chemo. Now it screws up my sleep. My sleep's been screwed up and everything, but it's like releasing adrenaline in your body or something. So you have, you're hungry, you have energy in like this weird way. And then now, because it's the last day on the cortisone, that's gonna stop probably. And then you'll have a couple days where you're just like passed out and have no energy and that kind of thing. So anyway, that's kind of the past couple of weeks, what's been going on with me. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about now is anxiety. So I'm somewhat active, not extremely active, but somewhat active on this lymphoma board on Reddit. And I noticed that a lot of the posts coming in from people and are about some type of anxiety or fear that they have about, a scan that's coming up or a biopsy they've done or the treatment, whether or not it's going to work. And, I can't speak to other people's personalities and what's really going to work for them, but I thought it would in their particular situations. But I wanted to just kind of explain what has worked for me, and what helps me get through a lot of that anxiety, because it's the same thing. I go in for a chemo treatment. I don't know if in the next, couple weeks, I'm going to have some kind of crazy infection that's going to send me to the hospital and I'm going to be, in emergency care and might die from it, let alone, whether or not the treatment's working and when they're going to do a PET scan or some biopsy, whether or not any of that's going to come back positive, negative, whether or not the tumors are going to be shrinking, growing, all that kind of stuff. And what helps me deal with a lot of that is just not going into technical details of it. So just having first of all, people that I trust, and then just saying, well, the doctors know what they're doing, and I don't waste my energy on it, and I don't waste time thinking about it. Because, in 2 or 3 weeks from now, I'm going to have another treatment, and they'll probably do some scans or look at stuff after that, and who knows if it's going to work. But right now, I feel pretty good. So I'm not going to waste. This is really what helps me a lot, honestly, is just thinking, like, if I'm spending time thinking about this or being fearful of it, it's ruining my current time where I feel good, I can do things, I can have a life right now. And so anytime I catch myself just kind of like falling into anxiety or falling into fear about something in the future, I think about, well, why am I letting that affect now? Because it could be great, it could be bad, who knows? And so that's a thought that helps me with some of the anxiety and dealing with that. Another thing I think is just staying occupied. I talked about this last time, but just having things that you're working on, and even if something comes back and it's worse, or you have to get a worse treatment, or who knows, the worst things you can imagine, still having that drive to accomplish your projects, accomplish your goals, work on the things you want to work on, striving to do that every day, still helps you, or helps me, have a feeling, not have anxiety, but have a feeling of accomplishment. And sure, you're working against something that's hurting you, killing you, whatever, but you're still working towards goals. You still have things you're trying to accomplish. Your life still has meaning, So those are some things that have helped me deal with some of the fear and some of the anxiety, and really helpful, I think, for me personally, because I like to engage intellectually with a lot of things, and I think I can understand them, and that has been to just completely, more or less, spend no time looking at all the research. Now, I know individuals are going to be different, but for me, that's helped a lot, because I would dive into like all the articles and try to find if this was the best treatment for me, and do the doctors really know what they're doing? But at the end of the day, it's so complicated, and I don't want to spend my time, whatever time I have left, reading through hundreds of research papers on Google Scholar and trying to figure out if that's related to me and going to help me in some way. So that would be, I guess, that's not advice, but that's just for me, things that have worked and made me just feel better. Okay, so I guess give a little bit of an outlook now. So like I previously mentioned, here in a couple weeks, I've got my 6th and final session, and then they're going to do a little bit of, I'll talk to the doctors, and they'll look at, probably do a scan or something like that, and maybe test some blood or whatever. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but just see if it works. And, decide after that whether or not, how to go forward. And what they told me this time is that they're really looking at the fluid on my lungs. So that's something I forgot to mention. When I went in this past time, I didn't have any fluid on my lungs, but I still have to take a lot of diuretic pills for fluid in my stomach and in other places. And one of the key indicators they're looking at, because they told me they don't have any like real tumors anywhere, is how much fluid is my body producing, as to whether or not the chemo treatment's been effective or not. They'll probably do other tests, but that's one of the big indicators. And so they're going to look at that, and then, after the 6 sessions, see, and hopefully the fluid stays reduced and it doesn't come back to my lungs and heart and that kind of thing. And if it does, who knows what happens. But that's kind of, I guess, the outlook is after these 6 sessions, hopefully that's killed the lymphoma and stays gone. And I've just got, fluid problems in my stomach from my liver issues. So reduction of the problems would be nice. And then there's something I wanted to say a little bit about the wear and tear that it gets to you, because I think that's something that I've noticed over the months, is that, it's easier to have, I guess, courage and face something one time. But when it becomes a daily issue, or every 3 weeks you're going in, and you're constantly in this cycle, there's 2 things that can happen. You can kind of get used to it, but also at the same time, you notice that it's just getting worse and worse, and you're ready for it to be over, and then maybe there's no end in sight a lot of times, because I don't know what they're going to say in 3 weeks. It could be, hey, it hasn't worked. We've got to do all these other things, and it could just keep going. And so it can be maybe easy to have despair in that moment. And I think one of the things that has also helped me through this is just to view it as a, I don't know, just part of life, something that is accepted, and just continue going on with life. So that means I'm planning to go back to work in a month and a half or whatever. I'm, like I said, doing all my projects, still trying to learn things, read, still trying to continue my life as best I can. And I think that way of viewing it helps you, because it helps me. Because it means, well, okay, it's rough today, I feel bad, but I've still got chores I got to do. I still got to make sure I can, work on my projects, learn these things, get ready for work, all this kind of stuff. And you're occupied with living life, and not with thinking about your mortality and how poor me, I've got all these bad things happening to me. So I thought I'd say that, because that's I don't know, something that I guess helps me through those more difficult times. But anyway, so I hope this video has been useful to some people out there, and I wish everyone all the best, all the love. Take care.